There had been some rumblings on the internet lately that Bethesda has been slow to provide us news on Starfield. And while that may feel slightly true, they have definitely course corrected today. They dropped the story so far, which is a very detailed timeline on Constellation that covers from 2050 until when we start the game in 2330. So let's go ahead and start at the beginning. 2050. Humans first arrive on Mars. By 2100, humans are living in space. So from 2050 and 50 years later, we'll have gone to just arriving on Mars to living in space permanently. In 2156, humans arrive in Alpha Centauri, which is 4.37 light years away from Earth. So within 106 years after arriving on Mars, we've learned, and we now know that it's through gravity bending, that we'll achieve faster than light travel. 3 years later, in 2159, the United Colonies are established. In 2160, New Atlantis is founded, and by 2161, it has become the official capital city of the United Colonies. 7 years later, in 2167, Cheyenne is settled by Solomon Coe, who founds its first settlement, Aquila City. In 2188, Coe invites Voli to join Cheyenne in a new alliance, the Freestar Collective. The Freestar Collective is officially formed in 2189. I talked about this in a previous video, but if you're not aware, Cheyenne and Voli are both Native American words in their origin. In 2194, the United Colonies positions the star station called the Clinic in orbit around Topala in the Nerion system. The unaffiliated peoples of the Nerion system see this as the United Colonies attempt to expand their borders and demand the UC remove the Clinic. When the UC refuses, the people of Nerion vote to join the Freestar Collective, who mobilize to protect the system in 2195. In 2196, in response to Freestar mobilization, the UC moves a fleet into the Nerion system, and Freestar responds in kind. The Nerion War begins. So within 150 years of us first arriving on Mars, humans do what they kind of do best, and they make war, which is a shame, but none too surprising. By 2216, 20 years in, the Nerion War drags on as public sentiment sours. Finally, the Treaty of Nations is signed by the UC and the Freestar Collective in 2216, ending the conflict. The term settled systems is formalized in the treaty. 5 years later, in 2221, the Freestar Rangers are founded as an elite, protective, and investigative force dedicated to serving all citizens of the Freestar Collective, and just only mildly remind me of Texas Rangers, aka Walker. Some 54 years later is the next time we'll get a note in the timeline. 2275. The Constellation is formed by Sebastian Banks. Original members include Chloe Bao, accomplished physicist Aja Mamasa, the youngest member and Sebastian's protege, Darius Andrus, botanist and specialist in xenoflora, Bernadetta Laurent, wealthy heiress and adventurer, Everardo Gil, former smuggler, and Kadri Toma, biologist and physician. The lodge is built in New Atlantis to serve the needs and people of Constellation for generations to come. 2305. Barrett joins Constellation. 2307. The Freestar Collective begins farming on the planet of Vesta in the Lunara system. By 2308, the United Colonies claims that by establishing a colony in a fourth star system, the Freestar Collective has violated the Treaty of Nerion. Diplomatic talks break down and the UC lays siege to Vesta, killing anyone who stayed behind or was brought in to defend it. The Colony Wars officially begins. 2310. Constellation comes into possession of their first artifact and tucks it away in the Constellation archives. After several years of conflict, the Colony War effectively comes to an end with the Battle of Cheyenne as a flotilla of civilian and military Freestar Collective ships takes down the major ships of the UC Navy using hit-and-run tactics. 2315. The UC Vanguard is founded as part of a UC response to the Freestar Collective's use of civilian ships during the Colony War. The Vanguard is a UC's own civilian navy, relying on civilians using their own ships, who pledge to protect the United Colonies and its interests. The ultimate reward for the service, citizenship in the United Colonies. 2319. Sarah Morgan becomes the youngest head of the UC Navigator Corps, though it's a short-lived position as the division is shut down in 2320. Cast adrift, but still eager to push her training to good use, Morgan joins Constellation. 2321. Walter Stroud, co-owner of Stroud Uckland, one of the settled system's premier starship manufacturers, joins Constellation and becomes its primary financial backer. 2322. Former Crimson Fleet pirate Vladimir Saul joins Constellation. 2325, Sarah Morgan becomes acting chair of Constellation. 2325, theologian Matteo Catri joins Constellation. 2326, Barrett finds the original artifact in the Constellation archives and knows it must be special. Also, 2326, after months of correspondence with Sarah Morgan, graduate student and gifted scientist Noel is invited to join Constellation, or Noel, but I prefer Noel. 2327, Freestar Ranger Sam Coe and his daughter Cora join Constellation. 2328, Andrea joins Constellation. 2328 as well. Barrett convinces Constellation to purchase Star Station L868 and modify it to become a deep space scanner, nicknamed the Eye, which we've seen a lot of in previous marketing materials. 2330 AD, Starfield begins. So that's it. That is the entire timeline of Constellation as we know it now. We're less than 15 days by the time most of you hear this until we'll actually be able to play Starfield, and we'll be able to flesh out that timeline even more. I hope this helps fill in some of the knowledge gaps that you may have had in the Starfield timeline. I know that I find it interesting, and it helps make it feel like the game is more real and that it's really just right around the corner. I'm Rob, thanks for watching, and remember, if you enjoyed this video, to hit that like button and consider subscribing for all of my upcoming Starfield content.